absolutely ludicrous. But why are we even talking about this? If Hamas could kill 6 million Jews, they would. Give me a freaking break. And the standard is complete hypocrisy.
So what are your thoughts on these news and media outlets covering for Hamas and trivializing anything that happens to Israel?
It's truly demented and twisted to see how you see mainstream media consciously making a decision to quote a terrorist organization that raped, beheaded, burned, and everything we know Hamas did on October 7th. The fact that they feed the press their casualty numbers and the press buys it is ludicrous. It is absolutely ludicrous. But the reality is, and it's kind of like gotten old already pulling the anti-Semitism card, but the reality is that in no other conflict around the world would the global community, but specifically mainstream media, have the standards that they have here. Like, just a very obvious example is, do you know how many people died in Hiroshima? Because I don't. Do you know how many people died in World War II? Because I don't. Do you know how many people died in Afghanistan? Because I don't. And yet all anyone talks about is how many people are dying in Gaza. But the point is, in Nazi Germany, where I think there's a consensus that the Allies needed to attack Germany, the Nazis had 33% support from Germany, and yet no one questioned how many innocent Germans died in World War II. Hamas is 80% support in Gaza, 80%. So, yeah, of course there are innocent people there, but there are innocent people in every war, and those innocent people are quiet, so they're irrelevant. And, it's very sad. These people are really, they're poor, they're victims, but not of Israel, of Hamas. And so the whole discussion of how many innocent people, forget the fact that Israel, the numbers are unprecedented in terms of, the ratio between innocents and combatants. Israel's going to set a standard that no other country has met. But why are we even talking about this? Like, why? And the answer is because Jews, right? The answer is because Jews are involved. And it's ridiculous. The double standard is staggering. It is so blatant and so obvious. It's pathetic to see, but it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone because this has been our story.
Comparing Hamas to the Nazis, that nobody complained when the Allies fought against the Nazis. But when you have the most, legitimate modern day comparison to Nazis and Hamas, people are complaining because the ones fighting against them are Jews. That's pretty much the only reason. It's ironic and it's disgusting to, because they want to make that Jewish to Nazis comparison. So it's incredible to see, and it's infuriating.
Generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of comparing anything to the Nazis because nothing can be compared to the Holocaust. But it's time that's a statement that stands alone, and I'll stand behind that statement. Having said that, there are instances where we actually can make that comparison. And we have to remember that, yes, the Nazis killed 6 million people, but let's not kid ourselves. If Hamas could kill 6 million Jews, they would, right? So, and so the real difference is that the Nazis drank themselves to sleep every night. They were ashamed of they hid what they had done. Hamas live streamed it. Let's just be clear here. So yes, Hamas didn't kill the same scale because they couldn't. If they could, they would. In many ways, Hamas is infinitely worse than the Nazis. And it's a crazy sentence to even say those words, but that's the reality. These people are as ruthless and as barbaric and as savage and genocidal as the Nazis were, maybe even more.
Going back to social media, what are some of the biggest fallacies or propaganda that you see about Israel right now and just about Jews in general?
Yeah, it's the same blood libels, right? We always have blood libels. So this generation's blood libel is obviously the anti-Zionism thing. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm only anti-Zionist, which is such a ridiculous statement. 95% of Jews are Zionists. If you're anti the Jewish people coming home to their eternal homeland, then you are an anti-Semite. Let's just say it as it is. You cannot be anti-Zionist without being anti-Jewish. That's number one. But the blood libels, Israel's committing genocide. Like, it is absolutely, again, it is ridiculous. It is ludicrous that otherwise dependable and reliable and accurate sources are going around literally quoting Hamas. It's ridiculous. And so, that's the biggest one. Israel's committing genocide. Israel's not committing any genocide. It's ridiculous. Israel's an apartheid state. Give me a freaking break. Do you know how many Arabs work freely in the state of Israel? Do you know how many Arabs hold senior positions in Israeli society? You want to talk about apartheid? Try stepping foot into Tulkarem or to Ramallah with a kippah on your head. That's apartheid, okay? So, those are the two big ones. And the standard is complete hypocrisy, and everything that you would expect, that from the world or from Israel, you don't expect from the world. And everything you expect from the world, you don't expect from Israel. It's just a double standard in the pure sense of the word, even before this war, but obviously has been amplified in this war as a result of October 7th, which in and of itself is ironic. Like, you would think after what they did, the people would be on the Jews' side, not against Jews, right? But this is our story.
What do you say to people who are now like discouraged on social media? And we touched upon it earlier, which is very easy to get discouraged about. You know, anytime I post anything related to Jews, I get trolled. It doesn't even have to be anything related to Israel, I guess. So I can post something I did with another Jewish author, and I get it in the comments. Stop the genocide or free Palestine, and forget about if I actually post about Israel. Then it just becomes nonstop. So, what advice do you give to someone?
I tweet. I don't read the replies. Occasionally, I'll go in there, and if there's something that needs addressing, I will respond. But you know, you said it. I mean, the anti-Semitism on the internet now is just out of control. And so, if it frustrates you, and if it gets under your skin, then just don't read it.
One of the things that you have posted, and this I advocate for strongly, and I've posted about many times myself, how Jews need to speak out now. Like I know it's frightening, and I know people are worried about their careers as well, and you mentioned that as well. But to me, it's always, if you're not speaking out now, what are you waiting for? So could
Yeah.
you just touch a little bit upon that? Because you've mentioned that quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that it's exclusive to Jews. I think anyone should speak out. I mean, it's shocking and appalling to see all of this anti-Semitism, blatant anti-Semitism. They're no longer hiding behind the mask of anti-Zionism. It's already that mask is lifted and the charade is over. It's so shocking to see the amount of anti-Semitism, and then the people who are sitting by and just letting it happen, not saying a word. It's just unbelievable to see it, and it's like. I struggle with the question always, like, how did people sit back and watch the Nazis do what they did, and how did they not speak up? And here we are again. So it is shocking and it is appalling, but again, it is not a surprise because once again, this is our story. Throughout the generations, as in every single empire ever, came after the Jews, and people let them try to, persecute us and exile us and murder us and exterminate, and the world just sat there and let it happen. So this isn't new. But I have to say, it's really shocking to me that it happened in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's one of the things also. I was always hoping, I've seen anti-Semitism. I was always hoping, I've been fighting. I had fights because of it, physical fights because of it. I was always hoping that my kids would never experience it to this level, and that, that's been shattered now. So just, I'm curious now, what's the overall, I guess, feeling in Israel right now?
So the answer is no one's ignoring the fact that we have a war, right? That's part of on everyone's mind. But as someone who meets, tourists, Americans, and other people who come to Israel almost at least 3, 4 times a week, they all say the same thing. I feel so much safer here than I thought I would, right? And so, you walk in Tel Aviv, you walk in Jerusalem, there's no bombs falling on you, right? I mean, yes, again, I'm not belittling the war. Don't misunderstand me. It's horrible in the north and, the south. There's tons, it's scary. It's a terrifying situation, but that is not reflected in day-to-day life. You're still walking around, you're still taking cabs, even with Arab drivers. It's like, you know how this works. I mean, the media gets clicks by, sensationalizing and presenting things that, in the most extreme way, but that's not the reality. The reality is Israel is as beautiful as it's ever been. You feel safe walking in the streets, but we need to win this war.